In many ways, Georgia is the new Alabama. That's what Paul Finebaum said this morning on Sports Center. I'm going to read you his full comments, but it is something that we've been talking about on the site. If you're not visiting Dog Post, you're making a mistake. This is one thing that was brought up during Final Feelings in Columbia on the way back to our safe house from Williams-Brice Stadium. Um, are we watching Georgia pass Alabama as the best program in the country? There's a couple of things here. First of all, you're not passing them without, probably beating them again and winning another national championship. You don't have to win. You don't have to beat Alabama to win the national championship necessarily. You do have to win the national championship to pass Alabama. Period. I want to also add, you do not have a dynasty until you have three national championships and maybe four. So this discussion of that sort of stuff is way early in the season, and some of the stuff that Paul's talking about, he actually admits we are early in the year here, but he does ask, he does kind of point out what looks on the field like is a very real thing. This is a Georgia team that has allowed a grand total of 10 points in 3 games. They are averaging more than 500 yards of offense per game. They are permitting 250 yards of total offense for the other team in the 3 games we've seen them play. The leading rusher against them was Bo Nix for the season. The leading passer for them is Bo Nix for the season. The only person that scored a touchdown is South Carolina's backup quarterback, Luke Doty, who Georgia about killed a year ago um, on their way to pummeling South Carolina in Athens. Uh, I believe that's Luke Doty's head getting knocked off right there by Trayvon Walker, which brings me back to the point, and I want to read everything Paul said in a second here. You lose Trayvon Walker, the number one overall draft pick, N'Kobe Dean, Lewis Seen. You've got Jordan Davis, people I'm forgetting to name. They are they did replace a lot of people. The term reload should never be used. But Georgia has developed a group of players who are a significant problem for anybody that plays them. And it's because of what they're doing in practices. These practices are legitimate, and when they have bad practices, that's a problem because it's about what you do. It's about what Georgia does, okay? And Paul's criticism here of Alabama is a little different than one insider I heard from this morning when we were just texting back and forth. But Paul, the person I was talking to was sort of saying, Alabama does not have the receivers they did a year ago. Well, they don't. That's clear, and you can see it. Georgia does not have the defenders they have a year ago. They had a year ago. But we're through 3 games, and that was Clemson, South Carolina, and UAB a year ago, and Georgia's allowed fewer points this season. I don't know if this year's Oregon team is better than last year's Clemson team, but it might be. It might be. So their offense certainly is better. But this is a moment in time where I think you can ask the question legitimately and without sort of being ridiculed as an idiot. If Georgia has Georgia, or are they passing Alabama before our eyes? Here's what Paul said. In many ways, Georgia is the new Alabama. Why is that so? He says, for obvious reasons, they look like the best Alabama teams Nick Saban had back maybe a couple years ago when Kirby Smart was his defensive coordinator. I'll add that it's been more than a couple of years ago at this point. I mean, we're talking about 8 years ago. And that team won a national championship at Alabama. He goes on to say, I'm not ruling Alabama out. They are still a very good team. But they have holes. They have deficiencies. Now listen to this. He says, Georgia doesn't. They look like the perfect team. They look like you went into a lab and put them together. Now, come on now. That's a little bit. He says, I realize it's early, but Georgia beat Oregon, and we can say whatever we want, but Oregon bounced back yesterday. He's talking about their win over BYU, which was a pretty significant victory over a top 12 team or whatever BYU was. He says Georgia went on the road to yesterday to South Carolina. We heard about how difficult. We all heard how difficult this was. Well, they were up 48-0 before when South Carolina got a garbage touchdown. Georgia is not giving up any points, and that reminds me so much of Kirby Smart, defensive coordinator under Nick Saban. I think one thing that needs to be considered as well is that Kirby, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility that Kirby could pass Nick. Now, that's going to take 10 years. But, Nick passed everybody. And the only way that Kirby can do that is by having multiple moments like this. Multiple. Because the sport's going to change. We know that. And what Nick has done in his time at Alabama has not just been remarkable, it has been something the likes of which we probably won't see. I mean, the likelihood of Kirby passing him, it's not super high, but it's possible. Make sure you're picking up DAWGSTRUCTION. There's Alabama in here twice. Once that went really well for Alabama, once it did not. Michigan looks better, don't they? The link to the book is down below. Make sure you're picking it up. It is our 80-plus page book, hardcover, forward from Jeff Foxworthy about Georgia's national championship season of 2021, a team that people really grew to love over time. This team, although Nolan Smith certainly has the personality, this team is notably different, I would say, from a season ago. Uh, it was time. I said that repeatedly a year ago, and this in the summer, and I've said this summer too. This team can win the national championship. Period. They can. And now we're seeing everybody rally to that flag. Now we're seeing everybody. Uh, Now we're seeing everybody n- take note of how what's the word, of how developed this program at Georgia has become. And I'm not here. I think Jermaine Burton made the right move for him. But when you look at the way Georgia is zipping up and down the field every game, they may be more lethal than Alabama. They may that we're going to have to see. I mean that's going to be a clash of the Titans. But Paul is correct. You know, Alabama does have deficiencies. They do. Now Georgia does too. And the notion that Georgia does not have deficiencies, I don't buy. But their precision on offense, their unwillingness to surrender yards on defense, are both remarkable traits of a champion. And we will see just how far this team can go because what you worry about a little bit at this point in the season is that Georgia is coming back to Athens, and then they're going to play some games that are not going to be super competitive, like the three games they've played already. And will there be a lull in the season because this team isn't so good that they can't lose? Period. Alabama can beat them. Ohio State can beat them. And those may be the only two teams that can, but they can lose. I think Tennessee has a shot at it. Going up to Lexington, that's going to be a challenging situation. But this team, I've it is passing the Aaron Murray 2012 test, and I tell this a lot. When Aaron and them were in their just full mojo in November, I did not even bother moving. I just went to the end zone where they were going and I set up camp and I sat there because I knew they were coming down the field. Now that Georgia is playing the way they are, I don't even. Now, I don't expect big, long plays, but I know they're just going to slice their way down the field. It's just a matter of time, moments. The one time they got backed up on Saturday, I knew they actually were going to probably not be successful that drive. That was the one break. I think it was 7 out of 8 drives they scored, or 8 out of 9. I mean, it's just the efficiency is it says it's hard to fathom how the quality of production that they have. I was watching Florida last night at the same time I was watching Clemson, the same time I was watching LSU and Mississippi State. Those teams are not even in the same universe as Georgia. Certainly not offensively. I mean, Florida just they're not good right now. You watch Clemson, and maybe it's good they avoided playing a big game early, and maybe they'll get better. And you can say the same thing about Alabama. Maybe we've not seen the best of Alabama yet. I think we have seen the best of Alabama to some degree, and I don't mean that in an insulting way. I mean, Bryce Young saving your bacon, that counts as pretty good. So I just that guy can't do it the whole time. Like, he can't save them the whole season. There's going to have to be other people. That's the good part of Georgia right now. There is no one person. You know, you talk about Will Anderson and Bryce Young being the best two players in college football. Now, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I mean, Bryce Young maybe, but like, and I'm not talking about projections to the NFL, but just like, who plays the best games? Have you seen Brock Bowers? This guy is a guy that just disappears for times and then just boom, 3 touchdowns. And he ain't 6'4". I'm 6'4". I know what 6'4" is. That he can move that fast is crazy. I'm not 6'4", I'm 6'3". But we all know what that's like. Maybe 6'4" in cleats, like 2-inch cleats or something. I I think, you know, Alabama, it might be, and let's just see, because Alabama has played one game where they've really been against a like kind of a real foe. Georgia, I guess, has played 1.5 if we're going to count South Carolina. But we're going to see Bama with Vanderbilt, and then Alabama gets into the meat of their schedule. Georgia is about to get into the French fries of their schedule, or whatever you want to call it. Georgia's got to get ready for November. Now, November is going to be a little bit trickier than this. But when Paul talks about, in many ways, Georgia is the new Alabama, I don't think it's crazy to declare that. I don't think it's crazy to ask the question, is this program better or getting better than Alabama? The answer to that is only declarative in January. If you're not seeing this scene, we can't really have that discussion. And that point, it would still be Alabama. That's all there is to it.